Okay, yeah. January 19th, 2022, council meeting. Please stand for pledge of allegiance. United States of America and the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Get a moment of silence for prisoners who were missing in action, and the mother, Evelyn Richardson, the mother of our solicitor, Morgan Richardson. Thank you. Secretary Gold, roll call, please.
Councilman Hayden,
Present.
Councilman Greco. Here. Councilman Lucio,
Present.
Councilman Siddiq. Here. Councilwoman Corral is excused today. Councilman Silver,
Here.
Council President Burke,
Here.
Councilwoman Phillips is here. Councilwoman Wagner. Here. Councilman Clues.
Present.
And Council, Vice President Wentz. Here.
Also. So present tonight, Mayor Catherine, CAO Robert Jones. Also present, Mayor Catherine, CAO Ron Young, Deputy CAO Dobbins, Municipal Clerk Alexis Giuseppe, Treasurer Haynes, Solicitor Cook County, and Sergeant at Arms AJB. So the rules of per meeting decorum. Upper Darby Township Council and residents will maintain professional respect for each other. Council encourages free speech. However, civility is required, which would prohibit threats, profanity, scandalous, impertinent, and redundant comments of any comment, the discernible purpose of which this is to disrupt or prevent the conduct of the business of this meeting. Next, we'll have the approval of November minutes. Get approval of committee meeting minutes for December 1st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Phelps and Wentz. I get approval of the council meeting minutes of December 8th.
Wait,
So
wait.
I'm sorry.
You have to vote on each one individually, and you need to verify if there are questions or concerns.
Are there any questions and concerns? Did we approve the minutes of the meeting?
I think what they were requesting is, motions to approve on each, it's like a motion to approve December 1st, December 8th, December 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just go through each one.
So do you want to put them in?
No, the request was to do them individually, so let's just do them.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, I mean, if you wanted to do it as one big group.
You could do that. There could be a motion to approve the meeting minutes of December 1st, December 8th, December 15th, December 20th.
Okay, well, I'll make that motion to approve all four of the minutes
Second.
in one big group.
Winston, Blackwell. Does everybody approve?
Are there?
All in favor?
Any questions?
Any questions? Seeing no questions.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? You gotta ask.
Opposed.
You gotta.
Yeah, we're good.
Next, we have a presentation for land development, 5321 West Walter Pike.
We're the attorney for the applicants here.
Yes, Michael Mattioni, attorney for the applicant, and Brian Studer, the engineer. Thank you, Mr. President. And again, I represent the applicant for this property, and I have, again, Brian Studer with me, and we also do have a representative of Verano here as well. In June, Verano requested and obtained a variance from the Upper Darby zoning hearing board to permit a medical marijuana dispensary at the property. Tonight's request is for approval of the redevelopment of the vacant former restaurant into the medical marijuana dispensary. Excuse me, the redevelopment involves the renovation of the existing structure and limited construction. Improvements consist mainly of milling and repaving of the parking lot, restriping of the parking lot, cleaning of the exterior of the building and parking lot, new landscaping, better lighting, limited interior renovations required for the dispensary to operate. Verano is a publicly traded operator. They have nearly 100 dispensaries nationwide, several in Pennsylvania. Brian Studer, our engineer, originally filed a sketch plan for the proposed land development. Upon receiving comments from the Township Engineer and County Planning Commission, he revised and filed the pending preliminary and final land development application. Additional comments were received from the County Planning Commission on December 17th and from Mike Galante, the Township Engineer, on December 28th. Mr. Studer discussed the status with Mr. Galante, revised the plans, and resubmitted a letter with 2 waiver requests on January 6th and also final plans on January 12th. That's what's pending tonight. Mr. Studer's here. He has the plans he can review if there's any questions or comments or questions about the waivers. He prepared the plan, so he's ready to discuss anything anybody might have.
I know Mr. Mattioni later on the agenda, resolution 2-22, which obviously involves this. Do you have a chance to review that resolution?
Yes, I did.
Any objections to it?
We have no objections to that, Mr. Kilkenny. So if anybody has any questions or want to hear anything further from Mr. Studer?
Anybody on the council have any questions?
Sure, could you, so one of the things that we've been talking about, especially over the last few years, with our new administration and council leadership, is making sure that for all land developments that come into our township, that there's planting of trees and stormwater management and so forth. Can you elaborate so our residents know what your plans are in that regard, since there is so much concrete in our township as it is, and so we'd like to just hear more about your plans.
Let's turn it over to Mr. Studer.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, council. I'm Brian Studer, civil engineer for Gilmore and Associates, representing the project. We have discussed and coordinated all the requirements, township requirements, with township engineer and staff. We're proposing to, one of the largest concerns was, the impervious coverage and the buffer along the rear of the property, distinguishing our site from the residents in the back. We took that into account and agreed to remove 5 parking stalls in the back, and we'll be planting, replacing it with pervious area and planting it with trees to enhance and solidify that buffer. There will also be a few other areas, smaller areas where we'll be reducing the impervious coverage, thereby improving the stormwater quality of the site. There'll be less runoff running through potentially contaminated impervious areas, and elongating the time of concentration to improve the stormwater that way. And I have a landscaping plan here I'll pull up now, but it's significant landscape improvements. We're going to be along the west side of the site. There's a steep slope between the property and the abutting Wawa, and it's overgrown with many invasive species and just overgrowth and trees in bad condition that are dying. They'll be those will be removed. The brush will be removed. We'll be replacing that area. We'll be seeding it with a low maintenance seed mix, replacing planting some of the required bushes and trees over in that area, as well as throughout the site. Numerous plantings proposed, and enhancing the landscaping that way. Let me pull that plan up for you now. This is the proposed landscaping plan. We're moving the 5 spaces in the rear here, planting additional trees here. Throughout the site, as you can see, this is the steep side slope with the abutting Wawa on this side. We're removing the existing brush and invasive species along this side, planting with new healthy trees, and as well as enhancing the front here along the right of way line. Any other questions?
Great. Any,
Any other questions?
I do.
Councilman Silver.
Yeah, so in other dispensaries I've seen, I guess there's often an issue with traffic entering and leaving the parking lot. And that's already a very congested area. I was just wondering what plans you have to kind of make sure that that doesn't become an issue here.
We had a traffic engineer and she testified at the zoning hearing board about the volume of traffic. I believe it was a reduction from what had been there with the restaurant. And we reviewed that with Mr. Galante as well. I believe you reviewed the traffic engineer's report, and they did make some minor changes, I believe, on the curb lines out on Baltimore Pike. And Mr. Suter could talk about that. But the traffic volume, we have way in excess of the number of parking spaces required. And the traffic volume was within whatever the, I want to use the wrong lingo, but within the acceptable number of cars for the site. So that was submitted with our traffic report back in June when we met with the zoning hearing board.
Okay.
Councilman Sims.
Yeah, just for the residents at home, this was the former Denny's location, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and the nearest dispensary is about a mile up. There's,
Yes,
It's in Springfield.
yes, in a different municipality.
Well, I'm sorry, could you describe, I guess, the way people would enter and egress of the parking lot?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to describe that. Is it okay to do it over here? Do I have to speak to the mic?
That
Okay.
would be fine.
Okay. So the entrance and exit here is a single driveway that's shared with the abutting KFC Taco Bell on this side. Vehicles would enter the site here, proceed throughout. They could then either make a left turn here. This is the handicap accessible parking down here on the dead end where there's the fewest amount of vehicular traffic on the site to reduce the potential conflicts with vehicles as they cross the drive aisle. to the building, or they can proceed down back. There's some parking along the side here. The truck, any deliveries, whether it be a pickup truck or the largest would be a SU-30 box truck, would proceed up. And then back in, this is a secured loading area, protected with a fence all the way around. We're providing adequate lighting in the back here to further secure those areas. And then the drive aisle continues around the back here. We're also enhancing the pedestrian access to the building at the request of township staff. We'll be improving the curb or reconstructing the curb ramps across the driveway here, providing a new crosswalk for them to cross across the driveway safely. And then we're providing a new ADA compliant sidewalk to connect to the existing sidewalk that runs in the front of the site along Baltimore Pike. That way they'd be able to access the front of the building safely with an ADA compliant route all the way from the sidewalk in Baltimore Pike.
So it's a single driveway, it's a 2-lane, I guess, driveway?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep,
okay, thank you.
sure.
Councilwoman Blackwell, you have a question?
Yes. So I'm curious about, it's going to be secured. Is it going to be with a monitor secured or with a video detection system? How is it going to be secured?
It will have both because I think that's what's required under the state act.
And for the curb appeal, if it gets too crowded, how will we manage that? Curb appeal, how will we manage that?
They have a queuing system so that they will not be overwhelmed with people. And they've been doing this for a long time now, and they're one of the leading companies in the business. So they do have a queuing system so that they will not have people hanging out. They're not allowed to under the state act. You're not permitted to. There's nobody permitted to go in and buy something and then use it in the parking lot. That's prohibited. And they risk losing their license from the state if that were to happen. But they will have a queuing system in case they do have that kind of overwhelming business.
What will be the hours of operation?
I believe it's only allowed by state law, the hours, correct?
Yes,
We have the state.
they are limited by the state. I didn't know if you had. Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m.
And just for the
and
public,
Saturday, 10 to 7. I'm sorry.
so just for the public knowledge, this is it's approved marijuana from the state for people.
It's a medical marijuana dispensary. You have to get a medical marijuana card. It has to be, it's essentially like a prescription. There's a little different procedure because of the way that it's probably technically still illegal on the federal level, but by the state level, it's legal. So the state has set up its own system where you can go and get examined and get a medical marijuana card. And you just can't walk in off the street. You have to have a card.
I wanted to elaborate that for the constituents so that they know that this is
Medical use only in
medical
Pennsylvania.
use only. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Can you email Alexis your names and any other notes that you have, so we have it for minutes of the meeting?
Sure.
Township engineer Mike Malante, everything okay with you on this project?
Yeah, I have no comments on this project. They actually went through a sketch plan submission where we gave them feedback about the site, and some of the items that we had them do is remove parking to increase green space. All the driveway improvements that they mentioned are going to be done. They'll be subject to an HOP permit. So PennDOT will also look at access. No further comments on our end.
And Mr. Galante, I know in the prepared resolution that Mr. Mattione reviewed, there are two just very minor waivers. You had no objection to council approving those.
No objection to either waiver. They're typical waivers that we would approve for many land developments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Great.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll have public forum. There we go.
First we have Ms. Olivia Taylor. Can you come up, please, state your name and address?
Olivia Taylor, 204 Kent Road. First, I would like to address President Burke. This so-called town hall meeting that took place last couple of days ago. Why wasn't the council involved? Why wasn't the public more involved in this? These two, Vince and the mayor, controlled it. And in fact, he read the questions that a lot of residents submitted. He read the ones that he wanted to read. I'm just curious why there wasn't more of an input in the community since it was a town hall.
So, thank you for that question. So, council has asked for the town hall meeting, and I believe we'll have ongoing meetings and discussions about this. It was short time, 5 or 6 days after council asked, we had a town hall meeting, and yeah, it wasn't well attended, but I believe.
No one attended but these two.
I believe all council was on the call. I'm not 100%.
Well, we couldn't see each other.
Yes,
That's my whole
correct. We
point.
couldn't see each other.
And, you know, the question I asked was, you know, this stimulus that was given to this administration, you know, my question was $1 million towards gun control. You have not dealt with A and B. How are you going to just jump to C and D? We have no reentry program for the community. We have no kind of services. So that kind of defeats the purpose. When you have women and men coming in and out of prison for whatever reason, early parole, COVID, they have nothing to come out to but the street. So it's going to be like a revolving door. We have no services. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it you, Michelle and Danielle? You started the reentry program. Whatever happened to that? How about start there?
So I actually was in the meeting yesterday with Delco reentry program.
Okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they are still doing the launch. It is finished. The program is finished. They're setting up when they want to do the launch for Delco. So they are looking for people though to do the subcommittees.
Okay,
So if you're interested in that, you know, if you want to give me your information, I can give it to you.
that's fine. I mean, anything to help the community. And I'm just thinking of ways that this could benefit everybody,
Right.
not just on gun reform. Let's give these kids something to do. So when they do get out, or for whatever reason, they have something to look forward to, because they're gonna come back to the street and it's gonna be like another revolving door. That is my concern.
Okay.
The second thing that I wanted to ask, I'm gonna switch gears here.
Can I comment on the gun control?
Sure.
I believe the amount of money on gun control is a large group of money, and it's basically, there's a lot of subdivisions under the gun control. I know Superintendent Barnhart.
Please don't even have a contract. Here it is 2 years later. So let's start there.
Okay.
Okay, they don't even have a contract. Okay, first of all. So.
But I want to talk about the gun control. I mean, we have $1 million under the gun control, and council has talked to the administration has talked to Superintendent Bernhardt, and you know, it's a title, but there's a lot of subtitles under that $1 million. The superintendent and administration would like to use it, and you know, right now they're in full discussion of how they're using it. So I hope that answers that question.
It does. We don't have the same. We have violence here. Ours is not like Philly. Philly is up to 555 murders right now because of gun. We're nowhere near there. So I'm looking at it as from that aspect, like give these young guys, because that's what they are, teenagers who have nothing to do, and give them something to do. Not saying don't invest in that, but how about try this first? Okay, give them something to do. You know what I mean? And let's see how that works out. You know, just put aside. Not saying no, don't give in to the gun violence, because we do have problems here. You know, we just had a shooting on Rev the other night, you know, which is domestic. It happens. I'm not saying don't, but let's try this first and get these kids something to look forward to whenever they're released or for whatever reason, because we have no services here for anything, no, what they call it, substance abuse services, mental health issues. We have nothing here.
I do know that, Secretary Dulles, right next to me, is, we've had conversations about services and stuff like that, and, she's actually going for her license for stuff like that, so it should be, very helpful to the council, and the council is in conversation, with this money, so,
All right,
please give us some time and we'll get there.
that's great.
Would
That's,
you like to see Ron Young, respond to the gun violence, or are you happy with your answer now?
if he wants to, that's fine. I'm just thinking that money will be well spent in programs for our community. That's where I'm at.
See Ron Young, would you like to?
Sure. Every question that was submitted during the town hall, either in advance or during the town hall, was read and answered, including the question that was asked by Ms. Taylor. So I just want to clear up from a factual basis. Every question that was submitted was read and answered. Part of the reason I was speaking so quickly is that I wanted to get to every question, and I was able to do that. In terms of the gun violence prevention initiative, you're right, there are a number of aspects to it. As Councilwoman Phillips mentioned, reentry programming is the responsibility of the county, right? The county controls the prison, the county provides the reentry service. So it's just a simple sort of misunderstanding of the different levels of government and who provides what service and what responsibility belongs to what government unit. So that's some of what you're seeing there. And nobody's more frustrated than the administration. We have regular communication with the county and the state and the federal government to try to get more services to Upper Darby residents. So that's what we can do when it comes to those types of programming. And many members of council, including Councilwoman Phillips, are very active in helping us.
So, make sure you give me your information, because I think it would be great on those subcommittees.
I have no problem with that. Thank you. I'm going to switch gears here. I asked this question last meeting, and I would like to know the status of the audit for the 2020 audit. Mr. Reginald?
So the 2020 audit is largely complete. We still have a few issues that we're working out. And I would expect to be able to deliver it to council at a presentation in February.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Next is, next is Ms. Laura Anderson. So make sure you say your name and everything. Thank you.
First, I'd like to welcome the 3 new members of council. Excited to have a fresh viewpoint in our council. But tonight I wanted to discuss the lack of transparency from our council and Upper Darby Police Department.
Excuse me, your name and address, please.
Oh, sorry, Laura Anderson, 2403 Bond Avenue. So it seems as though Upper Darby has chosen to turn a blind eye to the rising crime in our township, but it is happening and the residents do notice. The comment that it's happening everywhere is not only untrue, it's also dismissive and quite frankly, it's dangerous. Both the community and first responders are put at risk. This is our township, it's your township. A big part of what we expect from this administration is to keep our community safe. Part of that includes keeping us informed. If you look at the Upper Darby Police Department Facebook page, the last incident we're even given vague information about is the carjacking of Congresswoman Scanlon, thankfully who was not injured. This didn't even happen in Upper Darby. And what about all of that has happened right here to your own residents? Shootings, robberies, rape, sexual assault. We hear nothing. Yeadon, Lansdowne, and Chester, just to name a few, have very active Facebook pages, informing their followers of what's happening in the area, what to look out for, and even tips on how to prevent yourself from being a victim of a crime. Withholding information about what's going on in our community not only puts us all in danger, but causes rumors to spread. Did you ever play Whisper Down the Lane as a child? One person starts a message, whispers it to the next and the next. By the time the message reaches the end of the line, it's completely changed. That's how it works when we aren't given valid information about what is going on in our community. One person hears something from another person. Someone posts something on Facebook, and it reaches a multitude of people. The information is then passed around Facebook, changing a little bit each time. It's been exaggerated and downplayed. It's been twisted 100 times to the point it's by the end, it's nowhere near what actually happened. It's a dangerous concept, and it's one of the biggest reasons we need an honest, transparent council and police department. Your ultimate goal should be to build trust within the community, because honestly, right now, you don't have it. A connection needs to be made between this council, the police department, and the community. It's the only way to begin to alleviate the increase in crime. The campaign and underhanded defunding of the police needs to go, and we need to start a conversation about reforming the police. Better and continued training, up-to-date equipment, and a force big enough to cover our whole township and community. We also could really benefit from community involvement with the police. Events where they're attending as humans, just normal everyday citizens and not a police officer, so we can get to know them, so kids can get to know them. That's what makes you feel safe. We hear that kids in school would be scared to have a police officer at the entry, but not if they knew them, not if they understood that they're there to protect and serve. This communication between the whole government of Upper Darby Township and police department would go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Anderson.
Sure.
Ms. Anderson, thank you for speaking. I just wanted to let you know that council has been working with, we know that our police department is actively working on being involved in our community. I know that they go and speak at different schools along with our firefighters as well. For council, when we do tabling at different events, we often share information on behalf of our police department or fire department if they themselves weren't there as exhibitors as well. They also are often exhibitors at multiple events in the community and are actively have the same concerns you do and are actively working on bridging that gap between the officer you see, patrolling in a car and actually the officer, that is really there to help you and a community officer. And that's why, especially during the summertime, there are so many police units and walking units that are where the large numbers of the residents are around. So that they're constantly, constantly trying to bridge that gap. So that is really important to them. So I just wanted to let you know that it is something that we have talked to Superintendent Bernhardt about. We all, summer or winter of 2020, we took, for those of us that were on council then, took part in the Citizens Police Academy. And that was some of the, it was our opportunity to learn what they do and, what type of job they have, as well as help bridge that gap. And we've been talking to them about reinstate, when they can reinstate the Citizens Police Academy, to do so that more residents can get to take it, more activists can take it to really understand what they go through and to have those hard, difficult questions, because we had some really difficult conversations with them. And it was very beneficial for council and the officers themselves. So I just wanted to let you know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, if you would like to email CEO Ron, have a discussion with him, maybe you have some communities or groups in your school district or your school area, and to get into conversation with Superintendent Bernhardt. Hopefully we get out of the medical issue that we're in here, COVID, and it'd be a lot easier for our police department. I believe over in Jersey there was a high school the prep school that went with state troopers in Jersey, and state troopers all showed up and spent 4 hours a day for 4 days to get to know. It was on TV, it was on the news a couple of months ago. I don't think we can do something like that at this present time, but an open conversation with the CEO, Rangione, and Mayor Kepper might go a long way. So thank you for your time. Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Anderson, we spoke of transparency, honesty, and I'm wondering about community involvement as far as benchmarking. Do you have a benchmark that you want to recognize for the public and the constituents so that they can know?
So like I mentioned, if you look at like the Facebook pages, social media isn't even the best way.
Everybody's not on social media.
I'm sorry.
Everybody is not on social media.
Right, and I know that's not always the best way, because like I said, even social media, things get twisted. But if you do look at Yaden and Lansdowne, the Upper Darby Police, or their police department pages, especially Yaden, not even just saying what's going on in the community, but they were talking about the issue all over with carjackings.
Okay.
And they had a whole thing about, how to prevent yourself from becoming a victim of a carjacking. And it was just a lot of information, a lot of good information about how you can make sure that you're protecting yourself before the effect.
What did they say? Because my son was carjacked.
So they're saying, like a lot of people, especially in the winter, you run your car and you let it run, and, someone could just jump in and take your car. Also, they were mentioning, which this is something I've never heard before. So Apple in particular has the little tags you can put on like your car keys, and the criminal can actually read that. So when you go out and you turn your car on, they can be sent a signal, and they'll know that, they can see nobody's in the car, but they'll know your car's running and the keys are in the car.
Oh, wow.
They also they also had a long post about when the mailman in Drexel Hill was, his keys were stolen and he was jumped. And they talked about, how to mail checks, how to not become a victim of your mail being, important mail being stolen by either going directly to the post office or, never send cash, obviously, using secure envelopes, just ways that you can prevent things before they happen. And they post a lot of that, and it's a lot of good information, and I feel like.
So you're saying we should post more of that?
Yes. Yes.
I believe the mayor, administration, CEO Rangione, Superintendent Bernhardt will work with you and take your emails and take it into consideration, make it a better way. Go ahead, CEO Rangione.
Thank you, President Burke. We absolutely will do that, Ms. Anderson, and you make a lot of excellent points. And your comments, especially about whisper down the lane, we understand exactly how that works. The mayor and the administration are tremendous believers in the First Amendment, and we appreciate and love when members of the community come to participate in these conversations. It is important, though, for all of us to engage in these things on the facts, right? We have to have a shared understanding of what is real and what is not real. So in 2020, according to crime data collected by the FBI, the United States saw the largest single rise in the national murder rate since statistics began being collected in 1960. Okay, we saw previously the largest rise was 12.7% in 1968. Okay, so there is a reality. The national murder rate increased more in 2020 than at any time in the entire history of crime reporting data being collected by the FBI. That's a terrible fact that we all have to confront together as a society, that we have to confront as Americans writ large, and that we have to confront here in Upper Darby. So it's not meant to be dismissive when we say that there is an increase in crime across the country. It's meant to be a factual statement about what's happening in the country, right? And so it's important that we engage on a common set of facts, this is FBI crime data. I mean, it is the standard by which all of these things are evaluated. And in terms of the Upper Darby Police Department, we can always do better. Of course, we can do better with our communication. We want our officers to engage in professional development. We want to share more information with the community. But just 2 days ago, the Upper Darby Police Facebook page shared an alert about a rash of catalytic converter thefts in the area. Catalytic converter thefts are a significant problem, and our police were responsive and proactive and provided information to the public. And honestly, you've heard me say this before. I try not to do it every meeting, but it does become exhausting. Our police do an excellent job. Like the constant use and criticism of them as a political tool, as a cudgel to score political points is really dangerous and inappropriate. And we should not engage as an administration, and I would strongly encourage people to not engage in it, whether they're on council or whether they're community members. These are people who come to work every day, putting their lives at risk, and they deserve better than political rhetoric. They deserve to be confronted with the facts, and that's how we should be interacting.
I just want to clear up, I have complete respect for our police department and what all of our first responders in Upper Darby and, you know, across the country do. I have no issues with how they're handling things, but I think that they could use some help to make not only them safer, but us as well.
Yeah, thank you.
You may or may not have seen it, but the Superintendent Barnhart department started it's called a TAP program, it's Teens and Police. They graduated the first class of that. Lauren Crenny, that's one of the things we're trying to do, be out in the community more. And so like young people would have more familiarity with them. The next class should be in Upper Darby. We are a little bit constrained by COVID, you know, coffee with a cop, and that is probably not going to happen for a few more months. And we have also, they have more updated weaponry, right? They have the new tasers, they have smaller caliber guns. We are trying to support them as best that we can. They're also in the program for like state accreditation. So we feel like things are going in a good direction. We look forward to the time when we're not all wearing the mask and we can be out without the police help organize a really nice national night out, and we'll be able to do that again. So thank you for your comments. We are trying. We're a little bit COVID constrained, but we will work. We're going to work to make things better.
That's great. I appreciate all of the feedback.
President Berkman.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman. This will be the last.
I just want to let Ms. Anderson, I do know Ms. Anderson. The reason I know her is because she does do a lot of great work in the community. And she does that all on volunteer time. And I do know that she has a great respect for our first responders. So I thank you for coming here today. And I hope you're satisfied with a lot of the answers you received.
Thank you. That'll end public forum. Next up, the Honorable Mayor Barbara Ann Kessler.
Hard talking after these masks, but I got shot. Good evening. This past Sunday, I had the honor of meeting with Daniel Moore, who's the pilot who managed the miraculous landing this week on Vermont Road before he was discharged from the hospital. Members of our police and fire departments and council were there to send him, his family, and friends off. I would like to thank Daniel again now for his heroic actions navigating the crash last Tuesday and for keeping our community safe. I would also like to thank all the first responders, police, and the passersby on the ground who immediately helped assist at the scene of the crash. And also to the police, fire, and public works departments for quickly containing and clearing the area of the crash for public safety reasons and also for the good of the investigation. Myself and the rest of Upper Darby wish him a speedy recovery. Thank you to the community for turning out last Thursday to our town hall concerning the American Rescue Plan funds.
There was great participant engagement, and we appreciate all the community input that was received. The town hall can be viewed on our YouTube page for anyone who could not attend. And I'd like to remind everybody that that was like part one of the American Rescue Plan. There will be a part two, and, public input is always welcome. The cleanup originally scheduled for Martin Luther King Day at Sellers House has been postponed because of the weather and has been rescheduled for Sunday, February 27th at 10 a.m. This Friday, I will have the honor of joining Ms. Barbara Banglian at Upper Darby High School in celebration of her retirement after serving nearly 52 years as the school's choral director. Winner of numerous awards, including Pennsylvania Teacher of the Year, Ms. Banglian has made a clear and singular impact on our community and has shaped countless children's lives here in Upper Darby. There is another individual that I would like to take the time to honor as well. Bill Gall is retiring after 15 years of service to Upper Darby Township. During that time, he worked tirelessly with the Red Cross as the Emergency Management Coordinator, in addition to his full-time purchasing position in this building. We are so very grateful for all that he's contributed to the entire community, including his time spent dedicated to serving on the school board. We wish Bill the best, and we also wish him a very happy birthday today. Tomorrow, January 20th, there will be a community vaccine clinic from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Multicultural Community Family Center, which is located at 7016 Terminal Square, Suite 3A. You need to register, and you can register by phone by calling 484-461-8660 or register online at www.mcfsorg.com. Free Pfizer vaccines will be available for those who attend. Getting vaccinated against COVID-19 is the best way to protect both yourself and your loved ones. All children aged 5 years and older are eligible to be vaccinated, and booster shots are available for everyone aged 18 years and older who have been fully vaccinated. So thank you, and have a good evening. The other part that I play on the agenda is to ask council tonight to approve the appointment of Bob Gwynn to the zoning hearing board as an alternate. I thank Council President Burke for getting this on the agenda. And just for people who are watching, who might not know, Bob Gwynn served on council 2 full terms. He was on the zoning and planning committee on council, and he used to go to every single zoning meeting. And I think he's really qualified, he's very dedicated, and even though he's retired from council, he wants to still, do what he can for our community. I hope that council will approve this appointment.
I make a motion to approve.
Can I second that motion?
Sure.
Should we do a reading of the resolution?
Blackwell and Sadiq.
Do we need to read the resolution?
Sure. Now therefore be it resolved by the Darby Council that Bob Gwynn is appointed as an alternate for a zoning hearing board to fill an unexpired term, beginning January 19, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. Today, council chambers.
All council in favor of this appointment?
Aye.
Any nays?
In the future, can there be an opportunity for comment before you take a vote? After I move in second, remind me there's a
Sure.
window for comment in the future.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
That's great.
Okay, so that motion is approved. It's my time. As the mayor said, council and the mayor was down there Sunday, but they were also there Wednesday for the crash. I was there for an hour or two with CO Ron Young and our fire department, the local neighboring EMSs, fire departments, police officers that were standing by. Was unbelievable. Being up close, it was a miracle. also, the county, this is the second time I've seen Tim Boyce, which is a retired fire department captain or deputy chief from Upper Darby. He runs the emergency service. The first time I seen Tim here was the flood, I guess it was a little bit over a year ago. And we don't have the county services. Our men and women were there all night, 20 degree weather. The county does a great job. The fire department and our police do. But if it wasn't for the county and their vehicles, for our workers to stay warm, to rotate, all the fire departments rotated. You keep all the houses open and protect this township. They were out there for 38 hours, 40 hours in the cold. They did a great job. All 5 firehouses did a great job. And Chief Sawyer, Superintendent Bernhardt, their workers, their employees, our employees were outstanding. So many news vans and everything was under control. The police department, the command staff, and I was told this morning by somebody that the helicopter pilot on Good Morning America was wearing the Upper Darby PD shirt that Mayor Kepper had given him on Sunday. So at least Good Morning America got it right this time because they said Drexel Hill, Philadelphia, or whatever, but at least UD PD is out on Good Morning America. So somebody got it right. And we're fortunate to have our police and fire and administration, let them do their job, and they do their job. Thank God, and hopefully we'll never see this again, but it's a great scene by Delaware County and Upper Darby working together, so I'd like to thank them all. Next, we'll have the treasurer's report, David Hayman.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, Council. Mayor Kepper, Mr. Rangioni. I talked with CA Rangioni. We agreed to move the actual treasurer's report for close of the year to the council committee meeting that's coming up, and then we'll catch up with the January report in the February council meeting. So tonight, this is really, it is for our residents, a brief presentation. There's a lot of talk about the American Rescue Plan, and for those people who might not have been involved in what's been going on over the last month or so, all the discussions, we just want to make sure everybody's up to speed on this as the conversation goes back and forth between council and the administration, so you understand what they're talking about and why. My presentation, it really has just three points. Just to review where we are with the eligible use rules, what we're allowed to use that money for, what is currently available, and then the administration has put forward its draft proposal. So I kind of want to look at that and map that to the eligible uses. And then talk about very briefly about the final rules that came out on January 6th. Of this year. So as a review, I call them the ARP funds. I will continue to call them the ARP funds because the state and local fiscal recovery funds, is just so hard to say. So I'm going to say ARP funds. We received $20.8 million last April of these federal funds to be used for the coronavirus, for our recovery. And basically what the law says, they give us 5 general uses in the law. What we're allowed to use these funds for. It's very restrictive. And when the legislation came out, it was also very vague as to what we could use the funds for. So they have sat securely in a bank account. They're safe and until they're going to be used. And we have through 2024 to use them. So there's going to be a second, we're going to call them tranches, so we can use a nice finance term, We got the first tranche last April. We expect to get the next one coming up this year, probably around July. And we've got till through 2024 to spend that money. So the administration is actively coming up with a plan. They're going to work with council on the plan to use that money. Let's see. Yeah, so the final rules become effective April 1st. And what the final rules look like, it's sort of like if you ever seen on a website of frequently asked questions. So the Treasury Department took public comment and they published a 437-page document of final rules to try to clarify and give us an enumerated list of what the money can be used for. So it's a much better, clearer set of rules to follow than even with those interim rules that came out last April. So they clarify and they extend to a pretty large degree the eligible uses. I'm flipping, for the council, I'm flipping past the numbers. They're not that important. And I want to get right to the administration's draft. The administration put this draft together. They had a wonderful, I thought was a wonderful town hall hosted by CAO Rangione last week. It really helped my understanding of what's going on and what the administration's ideas are here. What I did for our presentation, and I'd like to ask a couple questions just so I'm clear. I'm looking at the eligible uses toward each of the programs. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 5 general programs, and then there's going to be these projects underneath them. And so revenue replacement, $6 million. That means a lost revenue that was lost to COVID. It was originally $6 million. I understand there's some changes to these numbers, but they're not important. Just the idea, the concept here is what's important. Flood mitigation and sewer upgrades, so about $6 million for that. Police and fire, $3 million. COVID relief and negative economic impacts, parks and public spaces. And all of these things are addressed in these rules. For example, revenue replacement is under category number 4, replacement of lost revenue. Flood mitigation, number 5, infrastructure improvements. And then I get to police and fire, and this is me. This is not poking at anybody or challenging anybody, but I could not find the police and fire infrastructure spending, and I'm trying to read a 437-page document. I'm not good at it. So I wanted to ask if the administration could kind of help map the eligible use for the police and fire spending.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Share, like.
So it's under 3.16, the social determinants of health, community violence intervention. That's a big piece of it. It's also in, and I could pull up. All right,
It's a long document, yeah.
But there is a rule that's specific, there is a section of the rule that does specifically address public safety vehicles.
Okay, great, awesome. Okay, I missed it.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think, I'm sorry, category 1 also includes public health and public safety expenditures. So there are a couple different places where the final rule contemplates those expenditures. And like, for example, on gun violence prevention, it's considered now by the CDC to be a public health crisis. So it falls under the mitigation of public health crisis due to the pandemic for that reason as well.
Got it. Thank you. I'm sorry. Yeah.
We're fully prepared to report appropriately based on this.
Oh, no, I wasn't challenging whether it was appropriate or not. I was trying to understand it, and I couldn't find it, and that's why I wanted to ask. Because there was a lot of the infrastructure spending, they spread out through that document. All right, so thank you so much for that. And so that's what they've done. So we've mapped the eligible uses to the programs, and now what's going to happen is, council and the administration will hammer out the final numbers. There was one other thing I wanted to ask also was, they're under the extensions of uses, they're talking about certain technology upgrades in that section. And I was wondering if there was any thought given to, because we are looking at significant technology upgrades, is any of what we're planning falling under that? Yeah, you're right. You agree?
No. I was waiting for Yes, so while we did examine that, we also are looking at additional money that the federal government has showed strong interest in, such as the broadband expansion. And so that is why technology didn't come in this set.
So maybe for the next, got it. Okay, awesome. All right. So that's what's happening. That's where we're at. It's in flux, but we just want the residents who are listening in on this to have a perspective on the discussion that's going to continue tonight and probably several future meetings. With that, I conclude my remarks. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Treasurer Hammond. Thank you for the information for the general public. So the next up is committee reports, planning, zoning, and building code committee. Chair, Vice President Wentz. We have a resolution under this.
Yeah, resolution of Upper Darby granting preliminary final land development plan approval for medical marijuana dispensary at 5231 West Baltimore Pike, as referenced in the previous presentation this evening. Now therefore be it resolved by Upper Darby Township Council, the plan is hereby granted preliminary final land development approval subject to the satisfaction of the following conditions. One, prior to reporting of the plan, applicant shall address the comments and conditions contained in the December 28th, 2021 MG engineering review letter to the satisfaction of the township engineer. Two, prior to reporting of the plan, applicant shall address all applicable comments contained in the December 17th, 2021 Delaware County Planning Department letter to the satisfaction of the township engineer. Three, applicant must obtain the necessary approvals and reviews from the township engineer, township traffic engineer, Delaware County Planning Department, Pennsylvania DEP, PennDOT, or any other necessary outside agency, and obtain any necessary planning modules, approvals of permits before the plan is reported. Four, applicant shall comply with any conditions imposed by the Upper Darby Zoning Hearing Board related to relief received on application 6-1 of 2021. Following the June 22nd, 2021 zoning hearing. Five, applicant shall complete all required easements and or maintenance agreements or declarations, including but not limited to a stormwater management facilities operation maintenance agreement, in form satisfactory to the township engineer and township solicitor. Applicant provide all necessary legal descriptions for any necessary easements. Six, any revised reportable plan shall ultimately be submitted to the township administrative review and approval that addresses all requests for further plan details, additions, corrections, and clarifications set forth in the above mentioned review letters. Prior to reporting the plan, applicant shall execute the land development agreement and financial security agreement directed by the solicitor and post financial security in the form of letter of credit, private party agreement set aside or cash escrow in form approved by the township solicitor. All reasonable outstanding township fees, township engineering fees, and township legal fees, and then may all professional services associated with the review and approval of this application and plan shall be paid in full. What the plan is reported in accordance with the Pennsylvania MPC. Prior to reporting the plan, applicant shall provide a reasonable sum to be determined by the township engineer and a cash escrow with the township, as to be further described in the land development and financial security agreements, the reimbursement of the township's reasonable engineering inspection, legal and related administrative costs and expenses related to the further reviews, inspections, and development of the project. 10, the medical marijuana dispensary facility, and use shall comply with all Commonwealth licensing provisions. And then we talked about two waivers that Mr. Galante already opined on, and the council didn't seem to have any questions on. One would be section 301 to permit a simultaneous filing of a preliminary plan and final plan. And two, section 806C7, permit the curb line radius be less than 5 feet is hereby. And then it shall be approved in council chambers this evening. That's a reading of the resolution.
Thank you, Solicitor. Okay. I get a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'm sorry, I have one question.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure, so section 80, so this second approval, the curb line radius will be less than 5 feet. What will the curb line radius be?
Mr. Galante, maybe you can.
No, you're fine. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, there's some existing radiuses on the site for the curb line, so like when you're pulling into a parking space or you're driving around a lot, there might be a curb radius that's less than 5 feet, which is in the ordinance. We try to keep a curb radius of 5 feet. However, there's certain circumstances where the plan and the design does not allow for it. So they're asking for a waiver for that. And it's a pretty typical waiver.
Okay, I mean, like, what are we, is it like 1 foot? Is it like 3.5? I mean, is it like,
I believe they're less than 5, but it's acceptable to allow for adequate circulation around the site.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from the council?
I did just want to point out that the zoning committee meeting did meet earlier today to look over the plans, and everyone seemed to be in support of it as well. And also like the plans, like what you were doing with the property, and look forward to joining our committee.
We get a vote all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Anybody against? So moved. Thank you for coming, and can you send your minutes over to Township and correct spellings of your name for our minutes?
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good luck.
Next up, we have Finance and Appropriation Committee, Chairwoman Laura Wentz. We have an introduction of ordinance 3111.
Read last. Okay, an ordinance of Upper Darby Township, Delaware County, providing for supplemental appropriations for the 2022 budget appropriating the fund provided by the American Rescue Plan, ARPA, state and local fiscal recovery fund, repealing inconsistent ordinances or part thereof, providing for a severability clause and providing for an effective date. Now therefore be it ordained as follows: Upper Darby Township Council shall make the following supplemental appropriations for the 2022 budget for the American Rescue Plan allocation. Section 1, program allocation 1. Revenue replacement, $6 million. Flood mitigation and sewer upgrades, $6 million. Police and fire, $3 million. COVID relief and negative economic impacts, $2,500,000. Parks and public spaces, $3 million. Total allocated funds, $20,500,000. All ordinance parts thereof, provisions are hereby repealed. There's a severability clause. It will be enacted and ordained this second day of February 2022.
Thank you for that reading, Solicitor. Jenny, I'd like to turn this over to the Finance and Appropriation Committee.
Thank you. So the Finance and Appropriations Committee did meet, we met last week on Tuesday and discussed this ordinance. We took part in the town hall. We have been communicating throughout the weekend and last night in reference to this ordinance. And we've come to the conclusion that we are not ready for this particular one to come forward. At this time, we have a lot of questions on certain issues that we need more clarification. So we have a proposed amendment or to the ordinance. Where there are certain things that we have concerns about. I just want that to be, actually, if I should have more that way than we're.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
You're gonna run out of there.
Okay. Good. You want to take it around? Good. All right.
Sure. And the others are fine. And to Alexis and.
Yeah.
Oh, did any, and then there's also, Matt, you forgot.
I do.
Well, I have two more.
Okay.
You know,
Did you get one?
I got one.
No.
Okay.
There you go. So, no, everyone should get one, so, this one,
Yeah.
everyone should have one. Okay, so,
Oh, I'm sorry.
one concern that came up is, the second whereas, pertaining to the home rule charter. My our understanding of the ARP funds is that it's a separate body of funding, completely separate from our budget that is discussed in our home rule charter. Our own home rule charter only discussed the annual budget per year and the capital budget, but the American Rescue Plan is not part of it in any aspect. And my understanding of the funds that are coming for the American Rescue Plan is not meant to supplement, outside of the 6 million for lost revenue, is not meant to replace or be included in our general day-to-day funds, that it's supposed to help mitigate problems that were created by COVID and things like that, and ways to solve the problem, but it's not meant to be blended in to our everyday budget. So the committee would like that section to be removed, and also down by the now therefore be obtained, ordained as follows. Upper Darby Township Council makes the following supplement appropriations to the 2022 budget. The council through the budget should be removed because it should have nothing to do with our 2022 budget. If that was supposed to have something to do with our 2022 budget, then we should have been discussing it last fall when we were talking about the 2022 budget. It was brought up in the presentation, but the actual allocations of the funds were not processed at that time because it was separate from our day-to-day 22 budget. So, those were some things that we wanted to remove. And then going into the program allocations, we're acknowledging that it's the total ones. At this point in time, we did not feel that we had enough information to move forward with the flood mitigation and sewer upgrade allocations for police and fire. We felt comfortable with the fire apparatus, but for the ambulance, police vehicle and gun violence prevention initiative, we needed more information. For the COVID relief and negative economic impacts, we are comfortable with the nonprofit mental health and homeless and mitigation of 1 million, the small business grant program and lost revenue for 750,000. We are not ready for the allocation for essential workers. We need more clarification, and there's a paragraph I'll read about that. But I'll also to say that we also wanted to add not just premium pay, but COVID testing, quarantine pay, and vaccine incentive. And then public works and parks and public spaces. We were not ready for that allocation at this time. We did add a section B breakdown per allocation. All detailed line items below must have their own bank account, and any funds not used for stated purpose must be referred back to Upper Darby Council for approval of new allocation of the ARP fund. The Office of the CAO will provide to the treasurer an electronic statement of each ARP fund's bank account on a monthly basis, and that includes all transactions that occurred during the statement month. The Office of the CAO will provide the treasurer an electronic copy of any ARP
funds, account check register upon request by the treasurer. All American Rescue Plan mandated reports submitted to the federal government also should be copied to the treasurer. And then subsection 1, there is no allocation in this ordinance for essential workers because council has not received a written agreement between the unions representing the township employees, the Transportation Workers Union, TWU Local 234, Office and Professional Employees International Union, OPIU Local 153, International Association of Firefighters, IAFF Local 2493, the Fraternal Order of Police, FOP Lodge 27. And I've covered all the changes that we wanted to.
Commissioner Culpepper, would you like to comment on this?
So tonight on the agenda, this was, I believe, Chairwoman Wentz, you would put forward like a motion to advertise. Is that what you were looking forward to do?
Yes,
Okay.
and also the thought process was that this is just the first ordinance, and that would give us 2 weeks before the February committee meeting to get the answers to the questions of the other allocations that the township wanted to make, that the finance committee gets a chance to. Ideally, we've asked to meet with the department heads and union leaders to be able to have these conversations and get a better breakdown on how these funds are being used. And so that we feel more comfortable to be able to move the rest of the allocations forward. So the thought was that we would have a separate ordinance introduced on February 2nd that would include those. And so this one could get passed February 2nd. I think that's a date expected, that, or February, the first committee meeting, February, this one could be passed there. So the ball can start rolling on those funds. And then the council meeting in February is where the second version of the second ordinance could be passed so that the rest of the funds can roll. So that it's just a 2-week slowdown for the ones that we still have questions on, and that money can start moving as soon as possible.
Council President Burke, if I could interject.
Yeah, I just, give me 1 second here. So my understanding is the motion to introduce and advertise as is, that the committee doesn't feel comfortable as it is to move forward. Is that correct?
Correct, that we would like,
Okay, so I want to clear that, first.
yes.
So the original ordinance, committee did not want to move forward, so they wanted to move forward to advertise and this one.
Okay, so I just want to clear that first, and then now I would turn the mic over to CAO Ron Gill. I just wanted to clear that with the solicitor first.
No, thank you. Understood, Council President Burke. So I just want to address 2 things quickly. One, I mean, if careful attention had been paid to the presentations, it would have been known that vaccine incentive is included in the plan. So that's just one minor point that illustrates the larger problem that's going on here. But a far more significant point, if I can finish, is that while I understand that the second whereas is not legally binding, as no whereas clause is legally binding, the reason that we're here presenting the budget to council for its approval is at the advice of the solicitor based on the second whereas. So if it's the position of the council finance committee that the second whereas is not a valid clause, that is a determination to be made by the solicitor, and we would be very happy to allocate the funds without consultation and approval of council. But it is very much the case that the administration is here before council because of advice of the solicitor based on the information contained in the second whereas.
And that is correct. I know you asked for that opinion, and I believe Ms. Richardson gave it, who is of course not here this evening. I spoke with her briefly about it and talked to her in depth about it, but that's my understanding.
So again, though, without the second whereas, if it's council's opinion that the second whereas is not valid, this whole conversation is moot, and the administration will proceed to allocate the funds accordingly. Some of us have done the.
No, thank you. I'm referring back to the solicitor on that, that's all.
Okay.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm fine with what you're saying, you know.
Yeah. Well, I guess that goes back to Chair Wentz. If she thinks, or it's her opinion that it's unapplicable, our opinion's different, I guess. I could look at it again.
Yeah.
Talk to Ms. Richardson as to where she
So,
got that
So
rationale from.
what I'm understanding is the finance committee is not willing to move the ordinance forward tonight. And asking the questions to the solicitor to go back and the second whereas. Is that correct?
Well, no, I mean, we're having a conversation. So so I didn't get a chance to talk to the solicitor about it directly. If the feeling is that in order for it to come before council, the second whereas needs to be there, then I think, I can pull the finance committee. Are you cool with that remaining? Finance committee?
Yes.
Yes, I'm fine with that. I think the issue really was more of the word budget, not of the rest of it, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
But yes, I'm fine with that remaining at this time. I do think that our issue is the word budget, not the whole thing.
Right, and more of a concern on council makes the following supplement appropriations to the 2022 budget, which is the point that these funds are not meant to be part of the 2022 budget, that they are a separate body of funds and not included in the 2022 budget.
Yeah, and we're not,
Hold on. So we'll wait till I address people to speak.
Okay.
And I know who's ready to speak. I'm not going to go back and forth. Right now, Vice President Wentz has made a statement, and I will direct the statement or the question to who needs to answer. You all understand. Vice President Wentz, are you finished?
Yes, and the committee has confirmed that they're cool with keeping the second whereas.
Now I'll go to Secretary Phillips, because you have a question.
So, I think I have maybe a question or a statement. I don't know, you can decide how you want to. But I remember, Solicitor Richardson, when we were talking about this, when the whole thing about the word budget, we couldn't use that because the money was not there. So now that we have it, so I think it's just a question of semantics, guys, because even though you might not feel comfortable with the word budget, it's not, I don't think it's how you're thinking about it. So, and I remember Solicitor Richardson was thinking, I remember her saying that, when she was here. So it's not. Let me see how I can say this without. Because you couldn't add it to the budget because we didn't have it. I think that's how she said it. So, and I get if you feel uncomfortable about it, but you couldn't do it in 2021 or whatever it was, because we didn't have it, so you couldn't add it. If that makes sense.
So C909, will read it right here, supplemental appropriation. And I have not read this all in context. This is just, me ad-libbing it tonight, not totally ready. Supplemental appropriations. If during the fiscal year, the chief administrative officer certifies that there are available for appropriation revenues in excess of those estimated in the budget, council by ordinance may make supplemental appropriations for the year up to the amount of such excess. So that's what the actual charter provision says.
So on my question is, we voted late December on the 2022 budget, correct? Correct. Okay. This money that we received was in June or prior to July 16th. Is that correct?
I believe, yes.
So it was part of the budget, or was it, everybody's stuck on this budget, 2022 budget work. So, the money was there prior to us approving the 2022 budget. So Seems like somebody stuck on the word budget, so you would like to clarify that?
Well,
Joe?
Look, I think, I'm happy to, obviously, council, it's your prerogative to vote on whatever you'd like to vote on, and I think we should probably proceed to that. But by way of clarification, the whereas clause is not legally binding. So whether the whereas clause is included in the ordinance is not of particular relevance. What I'm trying to isolate is if council feels that this provision of the home rule charter is not applicable to the ARP funds, there is absolutely no reason for us to be here having this conversation. We are here having this conversation because advice of the solicitor was sought and frankly agreed with, right? We sought the advice of the solicitor said, you meet section 909A, you must go before council to approve this. And here we are. So it's not a matter of including or not including the whereas clause. The whereas clause has no legal authority. The home rule charter has legal authority. The opinion of the solicitor is that it's relevant and applicable. If it's the opinion of council that it is not relevant and applicable, I'm happy to table it and allocate the money and move on. You see what I mean? So again, look, this is why we're here. This is why the solicitor is here. This is why the chief administrative officer is here. This is what we're here to do. So I'm just trying to illustrate the point of how to think about this and analyze and understand it in the correct way. If council doesn't feel it's applicable, we're happy to take that judgment and move on.
Just one second. Would you like to add anything to that, solicitor?
No, I mean, like I said, I did speak to Ms. Richardson about it. I know Ms. Richardson talked to the CEO about it. It was our opinion that it is applicable. That's why we did this in the abundance of caution. Obviously, with the once in a generation or several generation expenditure like this, we want it to be very legally cautious and how to spend and such. So that's why we rendered the opinion.
Thank you. And Vice President, thanks.
So just before this last little bit, the finance committee just agreed to keep the second whereas. Did we miss that? Or
No,
are we
no,
all clear
no.
that we did agree? We understood what your interpretation and we agreed to keep that second whereas.
That's
Our
correct.
concern at the moment is the now therefore be it ordained, where it says council makes the following supplement appropriations to the 2022 budget. We didn't use any ARP funds in the 2022 budget because the ARP funds we were told, are a separate body of money that could not be used for the day-to-day existence of the township, which is why the 2022 budget is a separate entity than the ARP funds budget.
Well, we could do something like council hereby makes the following supplemental appropriations consistent with section C 909 of the home rule charter. Something.
Sure. Yeah, we just, the
And
2022
that takes out
budget,
the ambiguity of that, if that's what council.
sure, that would be great.
CEO Rangio, can you comment on that, please? I'm just following the advice of the solicitor there.
Sure.
Thank you. So how do you want to handle this, solicitor? Okay.
No, I mean, I believe Vice President Wentz has a proposed ordinance to go ahead and advertise consistent with 909 of the charter. I believe if that's what council wants to do, I don't know if there's been a motion or second, I kind of lost track of that. But
We need to get there.
Yeah, motion and second, I know, obviously comment, like any other ordinance.
Yeah.
Before we call for a motion, Secretary Phelps
Yeah.
would like to speak.
Yeah, I just want to call a question.
Okay.
There,
Okay.
There's really not a question of call at this point, maybe someone make a motion.
So, would anybody like to make a motion to the,
I'd like to make a motion to move the amended version of ordinance 3111.
I second it.
any questions?
And this is a motion to advertise, introduce and advertise the ordinance. We're not- Right?
Right. Councilman Haney?
So I just had a couple questions before we consider that. I'm not able to, sorry. I sometimes don't appreciate how quiet I am. I had a couple questions about some of the comments that Vice President Wentz made. And I just wanted to preface this by saying, as somebody that's working with ARPA funding in another municipality, and somebody that's very familiar with other budgets, that other municipalities and the ways that they've allocated these funds. And I can tell you in communication with municipal managers and others in other municipalities, that this is basically what we've been presented by the administration, is basically currently the gold standard for how this is being done. I certainly share some questions. I know that President Burke and I have discussed about some of the details behind some of these top line numbers. I don't know that at this moment I'm prepared to say that I think this shouldn't be advertised as is. Based on some of those questions and concerns, as we had, I think, again, a fantastic presentation, and I'm not just saying it because the CAO or Gianni is here. And because I'm familiar with the intent from that presentation, is I think that at least some of you may be. But couple questions I want to discuss with regard to the holding off on the, hold on, where are we here? There's a couple of them.
Can I just call on a point of order? The motion on the floor, so that's where I was trying to clarify the snack. The moment that the conversation was ended by Councilwoman Phillips on the specifics of the ordinance discussion, we made a motion to advertise, And at that point in time, the conversation has to be on introducing the introduction and advertising.
I mean, I'm happy to just to.
I
Get a discussion. I am, if the president would like to move forward, I can just vote no, that's fine.
Yes. And then this one thing I did want to bring up. This is essentially paragraph 1 is, I guess, a condition to this, that no allocate. If you're not making an allocation, it's not violated. I was worried about a separation of powers issue because the mayor and the administration want to approve the contract. So there's no allocation in this ordinance for essential workers. It talks about the various collective bargaining agreements of that. So the purpose of that is there will be no allocation by the legislative branch until the executive branch moves forward.
Basically, we're looking for them to come to an agreement, and then we get a written copy of that contract that they then sign, so that council can, so that we know exactly how the funds are being broken up, whether it's how much is going to premium pay, how much is going to, the vaccination incentive. We included COVID testing. Yes, just to clarify, the only things we added to essential workers was COVID testing and quarantine pay. But those were things that.
I mean, the legislative branch can't require the mayor to sign a contract, just to be clear on that.
Right, we're just saying that we want to see a written document of how the funds are, what the agreement is with the union leaders in order for us to allocate the funds.
Okay.
Yep, okay. So, Secretary Phelps, can we have a roll call to introduce the amended version of ordinance 311?
Solicitor Cooking, so yes, it is the
Motion to advertise
as amended.
as amended.
And no is
To not advertise.
Not advertise.
Right. Yeah.
no is to go back to the one.
No is, so what council has before you is this version of the ordinance with the couple of amendments that have been made.
Right.
So if you vote no, you're voting not to advertise this version of it. If you're voting yes, you're voting to advertise it. It's not adopted, but there'll be voting to advertise, put it in motion to adopt.
With the second whereas.
Yeah, with those two.
Well, nothing's removed, just
No,
clarification of the,
Just
now therefore, the 2022 budget.
Exactly, I'm sorry. Right.
And it's clarified with,
To go back to 909.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right. Councilman Hayman?
Nay.
Huh?
I thought we're saying nay, I'm sorry. I thought we're
Oh,
voting.
no?
I apologize, misunderstood.
Okay,
I'm
no.
voting to not have it.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you. Councilor Blackwell?
No.
Councilor Anderson?
Yes.
Councilor Sadiq?
No.
Councilor Farrelly is excused. Councilor Silva?
Yes.
Councilor Burke?
Yes.
President Burke, yes. Councilor Phillips is a no. Councilor Wagner?
Yes.
Councilor Tunis?
No.
Councilor Wentz?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Fails. You need a majority.
Okay.
Fails. yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will definitely get back to the drawing. board. Thank you.
Next up, we have the solicitor's report.
Oh, thank you very much. Our office has been very busy. First of all, I want to thank the administration and council for, the sympathy they expressed to Ms. Richardson and our family. Ms. Richardson and I definitely, as well as every member of our firm, work as a team here. We've obviously been very busy consulting with the administration related to code matters, budgetary matters, as you saw, land development resolutions. So that's where our office has spent our attention the last couple of weeks. Unless if the council has any questions, that concludes my report.
Just one thing to remind everybody, I forgot to say earlier, we had an executive session before the meeting. Thank you, Solicitor. Next up, whole business.
I do. Thank you. Just very briefly, and I don't want to make a big deal about this at this point, but in, back in October and then in December, then Councilman Wagner requested, and I don't believe he called them actual spot reports, but he requested reports pertaining to 2 different days as to how many officers were working at particular times, and that would have been on December 2nd of 2021. And he also asked for a time in October. I'm not going to renew the request for the October date, but I am going to renew the request for the squad report from December 2nd of 2021, and then also ask for the one of December 23rd of 2021. I have requested that through public safety, and I have not been provided it yet, so I can ask for that.
1 second. COO Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in communication with the Chair of the Public Safety Committee, Councilwoman Fralia, on this issue. We have a meeting set with Superintendent Bernhardt. I know that the Councilwoman was not able to be here for personal reasons, so I'm not sure if she was able to communicate that to you, Councilwoman Wagner, but we do have that information prepared, and we are prepared to present it to Councilwoman Fralia at the meeting that's scheduled for tomorrow.
Right, thank you.
Sure. Councilwoman Blackwell.
As old business, I would
Oh,
like.
hold on, there's no other business. Oh, I'm sorry, no business, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I would like to remind council that we are having a job fair and health fair in May. We would like for everyone to participate in this event. This is old business, and that's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman Blackwell. Anybody else? Yes,
President Burke, and just confirming with the mayor, she'd asked me would if she had the ability, if she so chose, to vote that budget forward, or if she could break a tie, and that is authority she has under the home rule charter. Just wanted to be clear.
Okay.
Obviously, she chose not to do that, so it failed, but just wanted to.
Thank you. Seeing nothing else on old business, anything on new business?
Yes.
Councilman Turner.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to introduce the original ordinance number 311.
Second.
There was a motion, second, so there has to be a vote. Okay.
Okay, so it was first by, Timus and Blackwell. We'll have a roll call vote.
So if I have this correct, we are voting on reintroduce the original ordinance of 311.
Yes, yes.
Councilor Heyman,
Yes.
Councilor Blackwell,
Yes.
Councilor Anderson,
No.
Councilor Sadiq,
Yes.
Councilor Correa is excused, Councilor Silver,
No.
Councilor Burke,
No.
Councilor Phillips is a yes, Councilor Wagner,
No.
Councilor Tunis,
Yes.
Councilor Wentz,
No.
saying 5 and 1 excused.
And the mayor does have the ability to break a tie.
Yes.
So there's a motion
Just advertise.
to advertise. There's a motion to advertise. We have a motion to advertise. And it's just discussion on 311.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else on new business?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bob distributed to councilmen and women the Pennsylvania Homeowners Assistance Program. Give that to our constituents. So it's for homeowners hurt by COVID-19. Applications are due February the 3rd. And the information is here as far as the phone number. Also, there is a program that may be able to help our constituents with overdue water and wastewater bills. The guidelines, the income guidelines are there. It's also in Spanish and in English. Would anybody like for me to read that in English or Spanish right now? Questions?
Any questions? Okay. Any other new business?
Just briefly, Councilman Burke, if you don't mind.
Yep.
President Burke, I apologize. I just want to, I know that we talked about the helicopter crash that occurred. The reason that I want to comment on it is it did happen in my district. And I just really want to extend my thanks to our amazing first responders, of course, our helicopter pilot, who did such a great job to make sure that nobody was killed. But I especially also want to thank our residents. I don't know if many of you know, but so many of them, I know many people who live on Bloomfield, and so many of them literally, with no training whatsoever, went running towards the helicopter that was on fire. And I just want to thank them for their courageousness in being able to do that. And I think it helped to save a lot of people.
Councilman, did you have something?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Finally, the new projects of the 6 Market Power Line project is going to be happen really. And we are having a meeting with the community versus our mayor's administration this Saturday. What time?
At noon.
At noon, 12 p.m. I'm asking all the council members, it's a big project, huge project, especially at least at large. Council person, please attend with us with this meeting this Saturday, 12 p.m. at the project place, Market Power Line. Please join with us. Thank you.
I have 2 things. There will be a community meeting in the 6-5 on January 29th. We will be passing out the flyers. And there will also be a big community engagement committee will be meeting tomorrow, and Laura, I can send you the email, please. Because we're gonna be meeting tomorrow, to talk about what we're gonna be on for next fiscal year.
Thank you, Secretary Bowles. Can you also all committees copy me on the emails? So, I can try to make it to the meetings. CEO Roger, did you have something to say?
Oh, no.
Okay, I saw your hand. So, Councilman Jonas.
Yeah, as a chair of community engagement with various events coming on, just wanted to know what was the process to access funds. I know your predecessor made sole decisions. There was no conversation with the council how we're going to spend some of our budgeted money. So my question is there a mechanism in place on how we can request, for example, Women History Month, we wanted to highlight some great women in our township. We have a lot of them. We want to buy them from County Trophies.
Absolutely. So, I would suggest that we, put an email into Alexis, and Alexis will turn it over to CA Frangione or CAO or the mayor to approve, and,
Actually,
Township
Township Council has their own fund.
I know, but it still would have to go through the paperwork, to track the money that we're going to use.
So what I'm hearing is that we're gonna create a mechanism, because in the past, it was just one person trying to make any decision.
So Alexis is our clerk, and it'll go through Alexis. Is that okay? It's fine with me. And if we go over, Councilman Jonas, John will have to move the money at the end of the year over. Is that all right? I mean, you know, so I do have one new business. I did receive, and I think it pertains to most people, or everybody in the township. There is a reestablishment of district judges. Act. And of my understanding of some of the movements of the district judges that where I live and where Councilwoman Wagner represents, the people of that district there will not be able to vote for district judge for 6 years because that judge just won in Springfield. So Springfield judges will be overseeing our residents in some parts of the first. Our judges will be overseeing some of our residents in Upper Darby. I urge, I gave it to public safety. I will send it to law and government. I urge our council to look at it, to make comments. I hope the administration looks at it and has comments. And I hope Superintendent Bernhardt, I believe with different judges in different times, that our police officers will be running across town. And spending a lot of time where they could be on the street instead of in court. I don't understand it all, but I urge everybody in council to look at it, and I hope the administration, I believe you only have till February 22nd to make a comment. And I also urge Rep. Perry and State Rep. Zabel. In fact, where I live, I won't be able to vote for a district judge for 6 years. And I don't think Springfield gets up at Darby, you know, and I don't think it's fair to our residents. I think our residents need to know, you know, what this is all about. It just came out a couple of days ago. I gave it to public safety and, go ahead, Secretary.
So one of the reasons why things like this is happening is because of the whole redistricting, and that's why this is happening. So I don't know what it is that we can do as council or county. The problem is, you know, whoever is in majority in the state, they drew the lines. And that's how that happened.
No, I believe one gentleman at the county drew the lines. Has nothing to do with the state.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but CO Rangione.
Yeah, sure. I think you're both sort of right. When it comes to the magisterial districts, they're actually drawn by President Judge Kelly. I believe,
They
or
are.
they're drawn by the president judge of the Delaware County Common Police Court. Previously, Judge Kelly, I'm not sure if there's been a new election, but they're not actually drawn at the state level the same way the other districts are drawn. I agree with everything that Councilman Burke said. The court is incredibly important. It's incredibly local. We're very fortunate now to have 6 different magisterial districts within Upper Darby Township. All of those judges are Upper Darby people who know Upper Darby in their neighborhoods. And I think we would do well to put pressure on the people drawing those maps to keep that as it is.
President.
Yeah, CO Ron Jim, thanks. And 1 second, I believe, Councilman Hayman, you had something?
Yeah, I was just gonna add to that, yeah, just to say mostly what CEO Ron Jones was saying. Sorry, but I would like to add that I understand that unlike with the state legislative districts, that the state draws, that this is based on the number of cases in a particular jurisdiction. I don't believe it's based on population, although that may be a factor. One thing I will say is I haven't read through every single new district, but I have a very hard time believing that all of Hampshire Township and half of the Fort Township district have as many cases as, say, 12,000 people in CK and Clifton Heights. That doesn't make sense to me personally, and I have some other concerns, some of which are outside of Upper Darby Township, but I do think if my fellow council members were willing to give a resolution addressing some of these concerns or joint statement, something along those lines might be appropriate. There is a timeline, I believe there's.
Yes, it's February 22nd.
Yeah.
Like I said, I would like it out to public safety and law and government, and Councilman Hayman. I think that's a great idea. What I do hope that most people, our residents, know that I don't believe there's any public transportation to Springfield's court. There's some things, I haven't read through it all, but I think it's very important for law and government and public safety and all council to get the feedback. And I think they could have done it better, better lines. I think they just did what they wanted to do, and I believe the judges took more on in Upper Darby and not spread it in Hereford and Springfield. So,
President.
yeah, and Vice President Wentz.
We did pass a resolution on fair districting in reference to the judges, because this came to us, I believe it was 2020 or 2021, because at that point in time, fair districts was going to show up on our, the fair districting of statewide judges was going to show up on the ballot, which it did not. So we do have a resolution already in place, so we can just see if it included the district judges. And if not, we can update it. But I just wanted to point out that we have already passed a fair districting resolution in council.
Thank you. And this is really for the residents. And as CEO Ron Jones said, it's definitely something we should be looking at. And, the 2 committees would like to start a great conversation with this, especially ones that affect directly the residents. Anything else on new business? Okay, thank you. Seeing no new business, I'd like to make a motion to, excuse me 1 second. So I end every meeting. It's nice to be nice. And I make a motion to adjourn. Okay.
So I'll make.
Second, questions, time 8:53.
We do need all those in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.